Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's Asreal Player here, and today we've got something nice and exciting for you, and that is my top 5 hardest platinums so far as a trophy hunter. And listen, this is my own personal experience, and it's going to differ from everyone else's. You know, some things you might agree and some you might disagree, and that's fine. But, you know, let me know in the comment section, what's your hardest platinum trophy that you've got? The interesting thing about trophy hunting and hard platinum trophies is that it's obviously subjective, so it's interesting to see what some people find hard and some people find easy. And let's not lie, man. The feeling when you actually get that platinum trophy and you've gone through such a tough game, you've beat tough bosses, you've gone through tough areas, and you've done all these tough things, and it's been really challenging and really grueling. To get to the end and get that reward and get that sound, it's one of the best sounds you can hear as a trophy hunter, and I'm sure you all love it as well. Well, now we're going to jump straight into the countdown, starting off with number 5. Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. So, you know, not the only FromSoft platinum on the list, but, you know, maybe a surprise to some. It isn't higher up. You know, this is my personal experience, but, you know, Sekiro was an enjoyable, but it was a hard-fought journey. The gameplay mechanics rely heavily on deflecting and parrying enemies and bosses attacks, you know, which ultimately, you know, boils down to getting the timing just right to succeed in most of those fights in the game. Learning a lot of the gameplay mechanics as you're going through the game, and then utilising some of Wolf's combat arts and techniques. As I progress deeper into the game, I found myself becoming more powerful. You know, one of the best combat arts in the game, in my opinion, and one that really helped me massively, you know, was the Mikiri counter found in the Shinobi arts tree. It helped me overcome many fights throughout the game, and I don't think I would have been able to cope without it, to be honest. However, you know, the reason it actually ranks last on this list is due to the fact I don't feel like many of the bosses are actually terribly difficult. You know, they just require a lot of patience, more often than not. So, you know, not rushing or getting greedy really pays off in this game, I feel. However, one of the bosses that definitely gave me a run for my money, and I'm sure you'll probably nod your head now when I say the name, Ishin the Sword Saint. And you know what? You have to do this fight after a 2-phase boss fight with Genichiro as well, which, you know, makes it even more painful. You know, considering Ishin hits like a truck and is very, very devastating if you make any mistakes. So that's enough talk about Sekiro, but that is what ranks number 5, and now we're going to move on to the next entry. Number 4, Bloodborne. One of my favourite games of all time. It's actually in my top 5 games of all time. So, you know, I love it. And, you know, us fans of Bloodborne want another installment, or maybe like a remake or something. But anyway, yeah, this is what ranks at number 4, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it and tell you why I think it deserves this spot. So although you can dodge in Sekiro, I found myself doing it a lot more in Bloodborne because the gameplay is a lot faster. You're moving around a lot quicker. You also get a gun which enables you to be able to use a counter shot to parry enemy attacks when they attack you and leave them open for a visceral and do massive damage. However, Bloodborne is kind of, you have to play aggressively to regain health, because the mechanic in the game is basically when you lose health, you have an opportunity and a window of time to basically regain that health lost. The trophy list itself, like, you know, a lot of the FromSoft games is pretty straightforward. You're killing bosses, you get trophies for killing bosses, and, you know, you'll have to collect weapons and upgrades and stuff like that. But ultimately, the challenge comes with the, yeah, you're gonna guess it right, the Chalice dungeons. So in order to get the trophy for the platinum, you basically have to make it all the way through a total of 7 different Chalice dungeons in like a labyrinth style layout. It's got multiple layers, and as you progress it gets harder and harder. So what I struggled with mostly was the Cursed dungeon and the fight with Cursed Amygdala. The Queen of Yharnam, you know, she's no pushover, but I didn't really struggle with her as much as I did with Cursed Amygdala, because the room that you're actually fighting in is so small. And the fact that he can basically one-shot you anytime with any of the attacks, and one mistake, you know, it's done. You are going to be dead. You have to be very careful, and I'm not sure how many attempts it took, but I just remember it being really difficult. And I don't remember struggling with many bosses in the actual main game either, even some of the optional bosses. So of course the gimmick of the Cursed Chalice dungeon is that you have health reduction. So that is why you can be one-shot. So you literally have to sort of not take any damage at all. Be very careful, because like one mistake and it's over. So most of the other trophies are pretty straightforward. You can actually get all the endings as well in one playthrough, because you can obviously upload your save file and do it that way if you want to do it that way. And if you are going for this platinum trophy, just be mindful that there is missable trophies, and those are related to a lot of the optional bosses in the game. So Bloodborne is at number 4. Let's move on. Entry number 3 on the list is a rage-inducing one, you know, for sure. And that game is none other than Crash Bandicoot. You know, I'm not a massive player of platforming games, and I could be regarded as a casual when it comes to playing them. However, many people, including those who play platformers, regard this as one of the hardest in the series, before 4's release, obviously, which is now the hardest one. So the journey to the platinum for Crash 1 was a painful one. Some of the speedrun times seemed like unfair, and a lot of the levels seemed impossible at times. A few of the levels I really struggled with though, you know, really struggled with. And those two in particular were Sunset Vista and the Lab. And it can differ because some people might have struggled on some of the other levels, but these in particular were really annoying. And yeah, after some of those levels I had to take a break. Seriously, I had to. A lot of the time when I was doing the time trials, I would, you know, be a second off the relic time needed, and it was just really frustrating. You know, I often told myself to stop playing, you know, just forget the platinum. I'm not going to do it. It's causing me a lot of trouble. But I'm not someone to give up so easy, so I just kept going through sheer determination. I was able to get all the relics and all the gems, you know, and get the reward of the platinum trophy. I'd probably sit at an 8 though, because, you know, considering the amount of attempts I probably, you know, had to go through, you know, that's going to bump up the difficulty. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about Crash. It was tough. I had to attempt a lot of the levels a lot of times, and it was really annoying. So on to the next one. Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. So yes, I know we've already got 2 FromSoft plats on this list already, but you know, it's my list, deal with it. So this is a game that's actually unpopular amongst a lot of Dark Souls fans and Souls players in general, and to be honest, I actually really enjoyed it. So, you know, it is what it is. I think what I really liked about the game was the weapon variety, and I just liked the vibe of the game. But that being said, I do agree it has its flaws, and, you know, it's just me having a soft spot for it. So the platinum journey itself was really challenging, as, like, you know, in the Scholar of the First Sin edition on PS4, you have to defeat some of the DLC bosses in order to get the platinum. And 2 bosses in particular that I had to work extra hard to beat, yeah, you probably guessed them both, and that is Fume Knight and Sir Alone, which they're both in the same DLC as well, by the way. And I can't be the only one who found them difficult, you know, to begin with. Eventually I got them down and, you know, got the strategy to get them beat. But I remember getting destroyed the first few times I've, you know, fought them. And I was thinking when I fought them, I was like, I need to beat these 2 bosses to actually get the platinum. And it felt impossible at the time. But they both have really different styles, I felt, you know, in different ways. Fume Knight doesn't really allow for a lot of windows of opportunity, and he hits hard. And Sir Alone, you know, he hits hard, but he's really fast and he's quite agile. Luckily though, there are some good strategies for both of them you can look up. And to be honest, in my opinion, I rank these 2 bosses in the top 5 hardest bosses in Dark Souls 2. As I've said before, the platinum, like many of the Souls games, has a straightforward list, requiring you to obtain all gestures, sorceries, hexes, to name a few. It's a fairly lengthy platinum too. I clocked in at around 121 hours, and I ended up having about 3 playthroughs due to missing some weapons and spells. Also, one thing I will say is Dark Souls 2 has arguably 2 of the worst areas in Dark Souls, because Shrine of Amana is actually horrible. You know, I don't want to hear it in the comment section. Shrine of Amana, and probably even above that is Frigid Outskirts, are 2 of the worst in the series, and I'm a massive fan of Dark Souls 2, and these 2 areas really give me a lot of trouble, and probably every single player who's played these games, because I'm not being funny, these mages, as you're trying to get through, it's more like an endurance test anyway, but you know, I won't even carry on talking about it, you understand. And let's move on to the last entry, and number 1. So here it is, and a genre of game that I don't usually play, but you know what a game it is, and it's Streets of Rage 4. So from a series of games made back in the 90s on the Sega Genesis, Streets of Rage 4 is a continuation of the Streets of Rage trilogy. So as I said, I don't usually play beat 'em ups, and it took me a very long time to get good at this game, let me tell you. And oh my god, the music in this game is so good. I fell in love with the bright and clean looking art style, and you know, the gameplay had me hooked right away, and I couldn't stop playing it, to be honest. And one character I love using, and like one of the best characters in my opinion in Streets of Rage 4, is the character Shiva, the Streets of Rage 3 version. He's a quick and strong character with high combo potential, And you know, also he's got strong blitz and star moves. The only downside I would say though is that, you know, he can only throw weapons, he can't use them, and his special move does leave him quite vulnerable. Now, in regards to why this is actually top of the list, as for my hardest platinum that I've achieved so far out of the 112 I own, it's due to a trophy called Maniac. This requires you to get an S rank on all of the stages on hard difficulty or higher, if you're crazy enough to do so. Another trophy that I found hard to get was taking on a stage and, you know, completing it without taking damage once. That was really annoying at times. And to be honest, I think the main reason I found this harder than any other game on the list is due to my inexperience with these types of games. I had to adapt and learn. You know, the game is very skill dependent in my opinion. I'm pretty proud of getting it though, and you know, I had a fun time playing it. After putting so many hours into the game and achieving the platinum though, I felt like a pro, to be honest, so I really am happy with it. But there we go, I think that's enough for this video. It's gone on long enough and I had a lot of fun talking about my experiences. But you know, I'm interested to hear what you think about my list, and if you could put yours in the comments, I'd love to see what your hardest ones are. But you know, I'm guessing I'm going to see some Wolfenstein Platinums there, Super Meat Boy and some other crazy ones, and I look forward to it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, guys.